The wind howled through the dense, snow-covered forest, a cold, biting force that seemed to freeze the very air. Sarah Evans had been hiking for hours, her boots crunching on the thick layers of snow beneath her feet. The young wildlife enthusiast had come here to test her skills in survival, eager to prove herself capable of navigating the harshest conditions. But this snowstorm was more than she'd anticipated. The dark clouds above had gathered rapidly, swirling and thickening as the temperature dropped. What had begun as a quiet day of exploration quickly turned into a battle for survival. Sarah pulled her coat tighter, the gusts of wind making it difficult to see more than a few feet ahead. Her heart pounded in her chest not from exhaustion, but from a mounting sense of urgency. She was lost. Her compass had stopped working, and the snowstorm had swallowed every landmark. The remote wilderness stretched endlessly in every direction. It wasn't just the blizzard that made her uneasy. It was the feeling that something else was out there, something unseen, waiting. Just as her nerves began to fray, a distant eerie sound pierced the air, a low, desperate whinny. Sarah froze. The call was unmistakable, a horse in distress. Her instincts kicked in, and despite the worsening conditions, she followed the sound, her curiosity and compassion pushing her forward. She had no idea what she would find, but something told her that this was no ordinary animal in need. And as she stumbled into a clearing, her eyes locked onto a massive form partially buried in the snow, Sarah realized that what lay ahead would change everything. The snowstorm seemed to close in around Sarah as she stumbled through the thick drifts, the howling wind almost deafening in its intensity. She squinted through the swirling snowflakes, her heart racing. The desperate whinny she'd heard earlier grew louder, pulling her like a magnet toward its source. But as she neared, the sound morphed into something different, less frantic, more strained, as if the animal were struggling for breath. Her boots sank deeper into the snow with every step, making progress slow, but she couldn't stop. The sound was unmistakable now, a heavy, labored exhale followed by another faint cry for help. It echoed through the trees, filled with desperation. Through the mist of snow, she saw it. At first, it was just a massive shape almost indistinguishable from the white landscape sunk deep into the snow. But as she approached, her eyes widened in shock. It was a giant wild horse, its powerful body half buried in the frozen earth, the mane plastered against its neck like a frozen waterfall. Its chest rose and fell in shallow gasps, the weight of the snow keeping it trapped in place. The horse's eyes, wide with fear, flickered toward her. Despite its majestic form, it was vulnerable, its strength now a burden against the storm's relentless fury. Sarah's pulse quickened as she took in the sight. This wasn't just any wild horse, it was a creature of the untamed wilderness, built for survival. Its size alone was awe-inspiring. The beast looked like something out of a legend, its body rippling with muscle, the kind of animal that could run for miles without tiring. Yet here it was, immobile and gasping for air. Before Sarah could step closer, a small, fragile shape appeared at the horse's side, a foal. Barely more than a bundle of fur and trembling legs, it huddled beside its mother, trying to nuzzle her as the snow began to cover them both. The foal's eyes were wide, confused, and terrified, its body shivering against the cold. Unlike the mother, it didn't have the strength to fight the storm, nor the ability to break free of the snow's grip. A wave of helplessness crashed over Sarah. The mare's plight was clear, she couldn't move, and neither could the foal. Yet they weren't giving up. Even in the face of this brutal storm, they were trying to survive together. And that was when Sarah realized they weren't just two animals stranded in a snowstorm. They were a mother and her child, bound by an unbreakable connection, each depending on the other for survival. The air around her felt thick with tension. The storm raged on, but Sarah had no choice now. She had to help. Sarah's eyes were drawn to the foal, its small, fragile form barely visible beneath the storm's furious onslaught. The sight of the tiny creature shivering in the cold sent a pang of concern through her chest. Despite its youthful appearance, there was an unmistakable strength in the way it stood, shaky on its feet, but determined, unwilling to leave the side of its mother. It was a survival instinct, one that ran deep, and Sarah could almost feel the weight of it in the air around her. The foal was a stark contrast to the imposing figure of the mare. Where the mother had broad shoulders and a powerful frame, the foal was all legs and soft, tremulous movements, its coat a mix of pale gray and brown. Its large, wide eyes blinked in the storm, staring at Sarah with a mixture of fear and curiosity, but there was something else, something resilient in its gaze, a quiet strength that belied its age. As Sarah watched, the foal staggered forward a few steps, trying desperately to get closer to the mare's side. Each movement seemed uncertain, as though its small body was struggling to overcome the weight of the snow and its own inexperience. It let out a faint whinny, softer than its mother's, but still full of urgency, as if calling for comfort, for reassurance. The mare's head turned toward the foal, and for a fleeting moment, Sarah saw something remarkable, a connection that seemed to transcend the harsh conditions. Despite the mare's own suffering, despite her desperate struggle to stay upright, she leaned her head toward the foal, nudging it gently with her nose. The foal nuzzled her back, a fragile attempt at comfort in a world that was rapidly becoming a deadly storm. But the foal couldn't hide its exhaustion. It collapsed onto the snow next to the mare, shivering uncontrollably, its body too weak to fight the cold. The mother whinnied again, her voice laced with a raw, haunting desperation that made Sarah's heart tighten. She could see the struggle within the mare's eyes, the need to protect her foal, but the realization that she too was trapped, unable to move. In that moment, Sarah understood the severity of their situation. This wasn't just a fight for survival, it was a fight for life itself. The storm howled louder, and Sarah knew time was running out. Sarah's heart hammered in her chest as she crouched beside the two horses, the wind whipping her face, the snow now falling in thick, heavy sheets. She knew the risks of intervening with wild animals, especially with a creature as powerful and unpredictable as the mare. But there was no time to second-guess herself now. Every minute counted. The storm was worsening, and if she didn't act fast, both the mare and her foal might not survive. The wild horse's eyes flickered toward her, filled with suspicion, pain, and fear. Despite the instinct to run, to flee from the perceived threat, the mare seemed to sense that Sarah wasn't there to harm her. Still, she was a creature of the wild, and trust wasn't something easily given. The mare snorted, her body tense, muscles coiled beneath the weight of the snow that had begun to cake around her legs. Sarah swallowed hard, her breath visible in the icy air. She took a cautious step forward, reaching out to the foal first. Its small body was trembling violently, each breath shallow and fast. She tried to coax it into standing, her voice gentle but firm. "Come on, little one. Stay with me." But the foal was too weak, too exhausted. It couldn't even lift its head. Her gaze shifted to the mare, whose gaze never wavered from her. The situation was becoming increasingly dangerous. The mare's patience was running thin, and if she panicked, there was a real chance that Sarah could get hurt. She needed to gain her trust. Carefully, Sarah unbuckled the thick straps of her pack, digging for the rope she kept for emergencies. She had once learned the basics of knot tying and animal rescue in a training course, but she had never faced a situation like this. Gritting her teeth, she turned back to the mare. She slowly extended her hand, moving just a few inches at a time. "Easy now," Sarah murmured, keeping her voice soft, steady, hoping it would have a calming effect. She had seen enough documentaries and read enough about wild animals to know that loud noises and sudden movements could drive them into a frenzy. The mare flinched when Sarah's fingers brushed the side of her neck, but she didn't pull away. Instead, she gave a low snort, almost as if allowing Sarah to touch her. A tiny victory, but a victory nonetheless. Sarah looped the rope around the mare's neck, careful to avoid hurting her, making sure it wasn't too tight to cause distress. With a deep breath, Sarah began to work quickly, tugging the rope just enough to guide the mare's movements, trying to lead her toward an area with less snow. It was exhausting, her arms ached from the strain, and the cold was gnawing at her bones. The mare was heavy, a mass of muscle and sheer power, but it was clear she wasn't going to go anywhere on her own. She needed Sarah to help her move, to free herself from the snow that had trapped her. The foal, however, was another story. It seemed to be growing weaker by the second. The mare turned her head, nudging the foal again with urgency in her eyes. Sarah's chest tightened as she looked at the tiny creature, its movements becoming slower, its head hanging lower. The storm was too fierce for it to survive out here much longer. "I won't let you die out here," Sarah whispered, more to herself than to the foal. She turned back to the mare, speaking soothingly, trying to maintain her composure despite the panic rising in her throat. The storm felt like it was closing in on her, suffocating her, the weight of the snow and the lives at stake pushing her to her limit. But Sarah couldn't afford to fail. Not now. Carefully, she began to untangle the ropes from around the mare's legs, working as quickly as her frozen fingers would allow. The mare seemed to understand that Sarah was helping slowly. She shifted her body, attempting to move, the snow shifting around her with each strained movement. It was a slow, painful process, but it was working. The storm didn't relent. The wind howled louder. But Sarah knew that they still had a chance. If she could get them to safety, if she could get them to shelter, there was hope. Just as Sarah managed to free the mare's hind legs from the snow's grip, a sharp, strained cry pierced the air. It wasn't the wind or the storm this time, it was the foal. Sarah's heart skipped a beat as she spun around. The foal was on its feet, its small body trembling but determined. For a moment, Sarah thought she had imagined it, but there it was, the foal was standing, albeit unsteadily, as if it had found a burst of strength from somewhere deep inside. Its coat was damp with snow and sweat, but its eyes shone with an unexpected clarity. It wasn't the fragile creature she'd thought it to be. The foal looked toward its mother, who was still struggling to free herself from the snow. The mare's movements were slow, her strength running out. But the foal wasn't waiting. With surprising steadiness, it took a few shaky steps forward, its legs wobbling under its weight, and nudged the mare with its small nose. Sarah watched in awe. The foal's movements were deliberate, strong. There was an intelligence in its eyes that startled her. It wasn't simply trying to survive anymore. It was trying to help. The mare, too exhausted to move, seemed to sense the foal's intent. Her powerful eyes flicked toward the small animal, and for the first time since Sarah had arrived, she relaxed. Not fully, but enough to make a difference. The foal's gentle nudging became a rhythmic motion, and Sarah realized it wasn't just trying to comfort the mare, it was guiding her. Gently, the foal pulled its mother's head up, guiding her forward. It wasn't strong enough to pull the mare completely free from the snow, but it was enough to inspire Sarah. "Come on," Sarah muttered, her breath coming in shallow bursts. Seeing the foal's determination lit a fire in her. If the foal could summon the will to keep going, so could she. Her mind racing, she grabbed the rope again, tightening it gently around the mare's neck, guiding her with the foal's subtle nudges. Together, three of them, linked by a powerful force of survival, they moved. Slowly, painfully, the mare shifted forward. The foal stayed by her side, each step more certain than the last. Then, to Sarah's amazement, the foal did something even more surprising. It turned back, its small form darting through the snow with more confidence than it had shown all day. It was heading toward the trees, but not away from them. Instead, the foal returned with a few branches, snapping them off with its hooves and carefully pushing them toward the mare's feet, as if it knew they would provide better footing. It was as if the foal had sensed that the situation wasn't just about brute strength, it required strategy, resourcefulness. Sarah froze. She had never seen anything like it. This wasn't just an animal surviving, it was an animal adapting, thinking. The bond between the foal and its mother was deeper than Sarah could have ever imagined. Together, they had found a way forward. And it was this surprising teamwork, the mother's strength, the foal's intelligence, that would be their salvation. With the foal leading the way, Sarah felt a surge of hope. The mare's massive frame, though still heavy and encased in snow, shifted with more purpose now. Every movement felt like a victory, no matter how small. The foal's intelligent guidance, coupled with Sarah's unrelenting determination, was proving to be the key. Sarah's grip on the rope tightened as she pulled the mare forward. The snow was less dense now, and the trees offered some shelter from the worst of the storm. Her breath came in sharp, jagged bursts, but she didn't stop. Every time the mare stumbled, the foal was there nudging her, helping her stay steady. It was an unspoken rhythm of cooperation, the foal's small but strong body urging the mare forward, and Sarah guiding them through the chaos of the blizzard. After what felt like an eternity, they reached a small clearing, a shallow ravine hidden from the worst of the wind, its walls steep enough to shield them from the worst of the storm. The snow here wasn't as deep, and the wind was less vicious. Sarah sank to her knees, exhausted but determined. She watched as the mare stood, panting heavily, her body trembling with fatigue. The foal, too, collapsed beside her, shivering but not defeated. For the first time since Sarah had found them, the mare's expression softened, her powerful, wild eyes meeting Sarah's in silent gratitude. The storm wasn't over, but the immediate danger had passed. The horses were safe, sheltered for now. Sarah allowed herself a breath of relief. She had done it. The cold was still biting, and the storm still howled overhead, but in that small quiet space, Sarah knew they had made it. She watched the two horses for a long moment, the bond between mother and foal undeniable. And for the first time in hours, Sarah smiled. She had witnessed something extraordinary. Something that would stay with her forever. The storm continued to rage above, but in the small ravine, Sarah felt a strange calm settle over her. The horses were safe for now. The mare stood protectively over her foal, the pair huddling together for warmth, their breathing slower, steadier. It wasn't much, but it was enough. Sarah watched them for a long time, the exhaustion finally catching up with her. She had done what she came to do. She had saved them. But as she gazed at the two wild creatures, a deep sense of humility washed over her. The wild wasn't something to be tamed, it was something to be respected. The horses had shown her that, in their quiet way. They had fought together, relying on their bond, their instincts, and their strength. And, in turn, she had been part of their survival, an outsider who had been allowed to help. The snowstorm would pass, as all storms did. But this moment, this raw, fragile connection between humans and the untamed world would stay with Sarah forever. She'd come out here to learn, to test herself. But what she'd found was something far more profound, a respect for nature, and an understanding that sometimes, survival wasn't just about physical strength, it was about the will to keep going, even when it seemed impossible. As the wind began to die down, Sarah stood up, brushing the snow from her pants. She turned one last time to look at the mare and her foal. "You're not alone," she whispered, more to herself than to them. The promise felt like a silent vow. She would keep learning, keep exploring, and keep protecting. For them. For all of nature. And with that promise in her heart, Sarah stepped into the storm once more, ready for whatever came next.